Welcome, white belts, the weekly MMA show, Q and Raj, baby. March 4th, let's get it. UFC 235 in the books. Great event, 2 title fights, 1 new champion. Right off the bat, in the presser, Dana did say that Colby Covington deserves the next shot at Kamaru Usman, and he's getting that title shot. You agree with that logic?
Honestly, Raj, when it comes to this fight, I'm kind of feeling like something has been in the works behind the scenes for a super long time, right? Like, Colby Covington was supposed to get this title shot originally, and for some reason, him and the UFC could not come to an agreement. So all of a sudden, he doesn't get the fight, but the first moment Dana has to say, oh, who's actually going to be fighting in the next title fight against the new champ, he starts talking about Colby. So something about that makes my stomach kind of feel a little bit funny, where I feel like the UFC knew that they wanted Colby in that spot the whole time. And even the way he was kind of ringside, Raj, I mean, you saw that, kind of goading Usman after the fight. Exactly. There's something there that I just don't trust, but maybe that's just me being a conspiracy theorist.
Listen, when Colby ran up on Dana in the casino with his goons, Dana was acting like, oh, like, just turn off your camera, this is normal. Dana was worried. Dana was worried. So he repaid the favor yesterday and said, okay, sir, you'll get that next shot. And now it sets the stage. Kamaru versus Colby, probably in 4 months from now, for the undisputed title.
And that's the fight that people have been wanting to see. I mean, you can swap in Woodley. Sadly, you can swap in Woodley or Usman.
Yes.
Somehow,
Yes.
Colby has talked his way into that spot where people want to see him get punched in the face.
Yep.
Whether it's Usman, whether it's Woodley, I'm with it. So let's make that fight happen.
You want to see him get punched in the face?
I kind of do. I mean, come on. He's been a little bit irritating, I think.
Based on that performance by Usman yesterday, which obviously the white belts all saw, that dismantling of the self-proclaimed GOAT, Tyron Woodley, do you think that Usman has the tools to beat Colby?
It's funny because before the Woodley fight, we talked about how those guys were mirror images in terms of their fighting style. I think we have an even closer mirror image to Usman and Colby Covington, right? They're both wrestlers who basically just grind out the victories. They'll hold you against the cage and just force their will on you. But I think Usman does that a little bit better. We'll talk about that when they actually book it, but that's how I'm kind of leaning so far.
And that is the fight to make, so matchmakers, get that done, because the boys is ready for that one.
I'm ready. In last night's main event fight, Anthony Lionheart Smith Johnson took on Jon Jones, and we saw a battle of 2 African-American fighters basically.
You called him Anthony Smith Johnson.
Shit, okay. Let's run that back. In the main event of last night's card, we saw Jon Jones do exactly what we thought he was going to do to fellow African-American fighter Anthony Smith. It was a beatdown from start to finish, and I mean, Raj, if you look at that fight, we kind of expected this to come out of it, no?
Did you not say something about fellow African-American with Anthony Smith?
They're both African-American.
That dude's white, man. It was an African-American versus a white.
No, you look at his facial features, that is a black dude.
Give me his history.
Well, I mean,
because the white belts watched that fight, right?
Yeah.
And obviously for 25 minutes, there was not that much going on. So you can't help but watch somebody's facial features.
You can't help but watch it. Honestly, there wasn't much in that fight to talk about anyway, so let's dive into this debate.
We should.
Frankly, if you look, I think back in the day on on UFC.com, there was an interview where Anthony Lionheart Smith actually said that he was half black, okay, Raj?
Okay.
He grew up in Nebraska.
Right, which I knew about that.
I think in that interview, that was the first time that Anthony Lionheart Smith said that he was black.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, I mean, I was a little bit surprised by the news as well, but frankly, he's black, and that's all there is to it, Raj.
So listen, 2 African-American fighters went to war inside that octagon for the light heavyweight strap. Jon Jones victorious.
Yep.
Is that how you thought the fight would play out?
I mean, yeah. I thought actually Jon Jones was going to do a little bit more to Anthony Lionheart Smith and really impose as well. But I also look at it from Jon Jones' perspective, where I'm like, how motivated can you get to beat a guy that you're so much better than? So he just beat him, didn't really have to overextend himself. He had that cringeworthy speech at the end of the fight where he was basically trying to be holier than thou, and that kind of made me feel
God
a little
took
bit
over
funny.
his body.
Exactly, God's going to use me as a weapon in this fight. All of that, Jon Jones, I mean, I just wish he would be the asshole that he truly is, but maybe I'm wrong and I'm off base on that.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in Jon Jones, and the reason being, obviously he won every single round besides that head kick there, but the reason I'm disappointed is because before the fight, he's talking about being an active fighter and really cementing his place as the GOAT. Going in there and winning a decision against Anthony Lionheart Smith doesn't really validate your GOAT status claim. I think he really should have tried to put him away in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And I think he had all the tools necessary to put him away in those rounds. He didn't look like he gassed. He didn't look like he was hurt. There's no broken limbs. You should push the pace a little bit more. I think everybody was a little bit tired at that point. It's already 1:25, 1:30 a.m. in the East Coast. I was just done.
It must have been in the 3rd round or the 2nd, probably the 3rd round, where Anthony Lionheart-Smith was sitting on his bottom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And John Jones was kind of like sitting in front of him, just punching him. And I was like, just get on top of him and like kill this guy. You know what I mean? So to that end, I think he could have been a little bit more dominant, but it was a dominant victory. I mean, there's nothing else to say about it.
The co-main event for UFC 235 saw Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian Nightmare, my guy, dominate Tyron Woodley. Won that fight convincingly. I think it was 50-44 on some judges' scorecard. It was a true beatdown. My question, though, is were you impressed with Kamaru's performance, or were you a little disappointed in Woodley's output?
I'm going to give the nod to Usman, and I was on the other side of the fence before this fight even took place, talking about Woodley has the power, Woodley has the advantage in all areas. Woodley did not have the will to win that Usman clearly had right from the jump. Raj, I watched that fight, and it looked to me, I could be wrong here, but it looked to me that after the 1st round, I felt like Tyron Woodley actually quit, and he said, I don't think I can beat this guy. And from there, it just got worse and worse and worse. You know what I mean? So you got to give respect to Usman on literally taking the fight out of Woodley, I think.
This game is 90% mental.
Woo.
And honestly, Kamaru came in with all the right variables to win. Like, he really pushed the pace from round 1 to round 5. Even in round 5, when he came out, full gas tank. He came out with his little crawl, staring at Woodley. Woodley did look like a deer in the headlights, where he just looked lost. My answer, I was a little disappointed in Woodley, because I thought that, although I thought Kamaru would win that fight, I thought Woodley would put up a fight. And he did say in the press conference, one of those nights where you just can't throw, and I understand that. It was almost like a bad dream, and I get that, right? Like, you put 4 months in for 25 minutes, and that's it, you know? And if it doesn't go well, then all of a sudden all the training's down the drain. But you got to throw something in the 4th and 5th. When Dean Thomas is screaming at you, your head coach, telling you, listen, you're down 3 rounds, at some point you got to start throwing. You can't just go back to putting your back against the fence, especially when you're a solid D1 wrestler.
And that's where, I mean, that advice given to Tyron Woodley is almost laughable in terms of march forward, kind of walk him down. Like, Tyron Woodley is never going to be that fighter. So I think his own need to kind of have that perfect moment where he lands the right was ultimately his demise. And then once Kamaru really started playing with the level changes and threatening that takedown, that's when Woodley was like, I don't know if he's going to take me down, so now I'm thinking too much, over processing, and he wasn't able to get that right hand out. Which basically means that we have to give the nod to Usman again. I mean, I'm still on that side of the fence where he's the one that kind of created that situation where Woodley's now describing it as, I didn't know how to start, or I didn't know how to kind of compose myself. That's because of what Usman did to you.
It's a proud moment for you, a proud moment for all Africans, the UFC's first ever African champion, Nigerian descent, Kamaru Usman.
It feels good. Honestly, I'm jumping all the way over from the two women onto that Usman bandwagon, but it feels goddamn good. I mean, already I can kind of see that the writing, I mean, it's on the wall. Whether it's this year or next year, we are going to see a UFC Africa at some point. And when you look at some of the names in the UFC...
Tell them the names in the UFC.
I mean, come on. You start with Kamaru Usman, the welterweight champion.
Yeah, he's at the top billing.
Top billing for sure.
Okay. Or maybe not. Maybe the second guy you're going to talk about might get that.
We know that Israel Adesanya is about to take on Kelvin Gastelum, Raj, for the interim middleweight belt.
Yeah.
If he gets that done, I mean...
Yeah. Now you got 2 champions.
2 champions.
Abdul Razak El Hassan.
From Ghana itself.
From Ghana itself. That guy is nasty. Welterweight fighter. I think he's 5-1 in the UFC. And all his victories, even outside of the promotion, all knockouts. And I'm talking one-punch knockouts. Speaking of one-punch knockouts, Francis Ngannou.
You got to toss that big boy in there, right? Francis Ngannou could potentially also be another champion.
Yep.
In the UFC as well. I mean, obviously he has to get past his next opponent, whoever they end up setting him up with.
Yeah.
But Francis Ngannou is a killer. We know that he has championship potential. So it's, I mean, you go down the list. I think from there it does fizzle out a little bit, Raj.
It does. That is the top. I know in the Ultimate Fighter there was a guy Zulu.
Yeah.
And he fought. So he was a champion of EFC. I think it's Extreme Fighting something championship. Out in South Africa. So big MMA rising in South Africa as well. and he would throw him back on the card as well. I mean, you can fill the roster out with guys.
Other Nigerian fighter, Oluwale Bamboshe.
Okay,
right?
okay.
He has this one punch that he throws that's like literally a Donkey Kong hammer fist. You know what I mean? And
Boy's body is nice though.
So I don't even think he's in the UFC anymore, along with Zulu. But
Yeah.
throw them in. Let's get him into Africa and let's get this card popping.
So two fighters that won Performance of the Night bonuses were involved in spectacular knockouts. So now we got to debate what's the better knockout. The first one, Pedro Munhoz knocking out former champion Cody Garbrandt with a bunch of hooks, a left, right. He got him out there with his hands. Second one, flying knee from our boy, Blue Label, Johnny Walker.
And
What's the better
Raj,
knockout?
I'm going to get involved right off the bat because both of those knockouts were tremendous.
Yep.
But I think in having those two tremendous knockouts, rather, there was one that sat a little bit higher in my heart compared to the other one, and that one was easily rather, the Johnny Walker knockout over Misha Serkinov, right? I've never seen anyone throw a flying knee just from a standstill at someone that's not crouching. Guys, usually when someone throws a flying knee, someone basically
He's going for a shot.
is going for a shot, right? Just like this.
Yeah.
And then they time it well where they jump
Boom.
and then land the knee,
Yes.
right? But in this case, it looked like Misha was kind of standing upright.
Yes.
And then somehow Johnny Walker, I have to watch that video back because it was crazy, but the way he landed a flying knee from a standstill, for me, that's the one.
Misha's face must have at least been 5.5 feet high in the moment the impact happened.
Yeah.
Usually it's about 3.5 feet because they're crouching down. It was very impressive. It's also the wrong answer. The wrong answer is Pedro Munhoz with the more impressive knockout because of the implications, because what it meant for his career. Now bear with me here. Pedro Munhoz, who none of you have heard about before, is a quiet fighter. He doesn't really talk outside the octagon. He does his work inside there, but you can't get that shine when you're only doing your work inside the octagon against other no-name fighters. Nobody's going to know who you are. Welcome, Cody Garbrandt. Former champion, outspoken, good-looking, knocked out cold by Pedro Munhoz. Welcome, China, to the world MMA stage here. We just talked about Africa. Now we're talking about China. We're going all regionally with these guys today. Weili Zhang. She just dominated Tisha Torres, number 6th ranked Tisha Torres in the women's strawweight division. Weili was on Raj's radar last week, so I know you white belts caught that and saw her dominate a 30-27 victory. My question to you, did you see enough from Weili to be a future title champion?
I'm close to that point, Raj. I was super impressed with Weili's performance. I mean, the way that she was kind of light on her feet, bouncing around, her striking game is already the best in that division, and that's a tall compliment because we have
Rose,
Joanna Jędrzejczyk,
Yeah.
Rose Namajunas in that division. It's close, but based on what I just saw from Weili yesterday, I feel like she's already the best striker in that entire division. The problem, though, Raj, is that her grappling skills, we saw a little bit of them against Tisha Torres, but Tisha Torres had a couple reversals. It didn't look like she was that dominant in that arena.
Right.
And when you start to look at the top of that flyweight division, I mean, you have the likes of some real
Tatiana
Suarez,
Claudia Gadelia,
Jessica Andrade. These
Yeah.
are women that basically dominate in the clinch. They're
Yeah.
kind of good at the takedown game as well. And it's going to be a tough test to kind of see if she can get past that level of fighters.
Yeah.
It's possible, but I'm just not all the way there yet.
It's rare for me to say somebody's green at fighting when their record is 19-1, but Weili still feels like a project to me. And maybe that's because she trains in China. The gym's probably not as reputable internationally. So maybe she needs more development. I know she did actually move over to Jackson Wink this camp. She did some training in North America. She spent the last part of her camp at the UFC Performance Institute in Vegas. I think she has the strength, which we've seen. She doesn't have that technique yet. I think once she gets all of those pieces together, I called it. This could be China's first MMA superstar. Forget female, forget male, just Chinese superstar. Because she has all the tools and attributes. And in this division, you put 2 wins together, you're already getting a title shot.
It sounds like you kind of have a crush on her. I mean, if I'm just falling back a
Yeah,
little bit,
yeah.
your cheeks are getting a little bit red.
Listen,
Yeah,
it's
there's
nice
something happening.
to see the new wave of
Yeah,
MMA fighters
true.
too, you know? Because I've seen, if you look at the UFC rankings, sometimes it looks a little bit dated to me. So seeing a name like Weili now enter the top 10, slide down, Tisha Torres. The new breed is coming.
In the UFC 235 post-fight press conference, Dana White was asked about how he felt about the stoppage in the Lawler versus Askren fight. And to that he responded, he basically thought that Lawler didn't really tap and he wanted to run that back, basically rematch that fight. Raj, that fight, I don't know if I like that idea from Dana White. How do you feel about it, though?
Listen, it was a super exciting fight for the short time it lasted. Lawler came out, blasted Askren, flipped him over his head, threw him on his head, and then he landed some devastating shots.
Huge.
We were watching that together with a couple other people, and we all thought that fight was getting stopped.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Askren comes back, a bloody mess now. He starts pushing the pace on Robbie, pushing the pace, gets him down a little bit, kind of roughs him up. And now gets this little bulldog choke, this little headlock, doing some noogies.
Yeah.
And so Lawler's arm is up here, falls down pretty quick, and when it fell down, the ref thought, oh, he's unconscious. He wasn't, he was just trying to base, and the fight stopped.
And Big Herb Dean, I mean, he is one of the better MMA referees.
Yeah.
In that case, I actually agree with Herb Dean. I think Lawler was out for a second. The speed, and I'm not a real analyst here. I do my best, guys, okay? But the speed with which Robbie Lawler's arm fell off of that bulldog choke, that told me that he was out. He may have come back too a couple seconds later, but somewhere in there I feel like he was truly out. And in that way, Herb Dean was granted and kind of stopping the fight and saying, no, you were definitely out. It's just a funny outcome, though. Regardless, for me, whether he was out or not, I don't really care.
I don't want to see that fight. I'm sick and tired of immediate rematches as well. And, you know, enter Tyron Woodley, who says he wants an immediate rematch after getting dominated 5 rounds. No thanks. I think we need to get these guys fighting different opponents. There's too much mutual respect between Askren and Lawler as well. Askren needs to pick on somebody his own size and get maybe a Darren Till, because they both are already verbally sparring. Darren Till's fighting in 2 weeks against Jorge Masvidal.
And in the press conference after the fight, that's exactly the fight that Askren was calling for. He was saying, yo, give me the winner of Masvidal and Till. I'll go over the UK, no problem, and basically beat up on the winner, assuming it's Darren Till. And that's the right call to make. I mean, Askren as well, if we want to see if he's really as good as we thought he was, we learned a little bit in this fight, but we still need to see him against higher and higher competition, and we do not have the luxury of time, so let's get this shit going.
UFC is blessing us with another regional card this upcoming Saturday in Wichita, Kansas. The main event, actually pretty intriguing in the heavyweight division, Junior Dos Santos versus Derek Black Beast Lewis. Otherwise, when you look underneath the card, you got some great fighters, no title implications. They're just kind of journeyman or up-and-coming fighters that are trying to make their name. My question to you is, are you even watching this regional card?
Did you say blessing us?
Yeah, I did say blessing us.
That must have been sarcasm.
For the hardcores that do want to watch UFC on a weekly basis.
I don't feel too blessed by this
Okay.
by this card. I'm just going to say it. I mean, Derek Lewis, of course, when he lands that one-hitter quitter, you get excited. But overall, his fighting style is kind of a little bit, it leaves something to be seen. I mean, he's not someone that is going to be in the best shape when he comes into the fight. He might hurt his back in the first 30 seconds of the fight. So it's just, as much as I love the Black Beast and think he's obviously done more than he probably ever thought he would do in the sport, I kind of know the narrative there, and I'm not really all that interested in it.
Yeah, you know what? It does have title implications, though, because the heavyweight division is so weak. As we've talked about, you got Ngannou, Stipe, and then the champion, Daniel Cormier. And the champion wants to fight Brock Lesnar. Who knows when that's happening? So the winner of this fight could get vaulted into that #1 contender slot to face DC, which is laughable, but that's where we're at. And JDS is on a 2-fight win streak.
Is he?
He is.
Okay.
He is. He beat Tuivasa in his home country.
Yeah, that was a big win.
So I think he will get it done against Black Beast. I think he'll get it done pretty easily against Black Beast. Black Beast, obviously, we know his only chance to ever win is that one-hitter quitter. I don't think he'll get that against Junior.
I never count him out. I think just in this interaction, you got me a little bit more compelled to kind of watch that fight. There's something that's happening there. But overall, guys,
yeah, it is what it is. Let's move on.
Welcome back to another edition of Q's Perspective, and today I'm going to be talking about weight classes. In the post-fight press conference, Dana White was talking about how the next fight for Jon Jones should maybe be Thiago Santos, because Santos has looked impressive in his last 4 fights, and Santos has looked very impressive in his last 4 fights. But we know that when it comes to Santos against Jon Jones, I mean, there's levels to this shit, and frankly, Santos is not on that level. I think the true next move that should be made in the UFC, and MMA at large, frankly, is we need a weight class between 205 and 265, which is the heavyweight limit. Everyone's calling for Jon Jones to move up in weight, move up in weight. Move from 205 to 265, is that really what you want to see? I'm thinking, and just kind of let me know what you guys think too, but I'm thinking if we open up a 225-pound division, now we can have some of the smaller heavyweights, maybe a Stipe Miocic. Come down to the 225 and we can have some of the bigger light heavyweights, maybe Daniel Cormier. Go to that division and then we can kind of get new, fresh fights in a division that makes a lot more sense than asking Jon Jones to move up to 265 and fight Brock Lesnar. So that's just Q's perspective, but let me know what you guys think down below.
It's better betting with Q and Raj. Man, we're getting good at this now.
Yeah,
now we're in the flow.
And the tone on that jingle was very nice. So
yeah, my voice is a little raspy too because of the screaming yesterday. It's okay?
Not today, you look good.
Perfect. Let's get started. This upcoming weekend, as we discussed, JDS, Black Beast, that main event. Is there money to be made? I think so. Minus 250 JDS, plus 200 Derek Lewis. Where's your money going?
The fun money is on Derek Lewis in this one because at any given point he can kind of land that right hand and get it done. JDS, as much as he was a great, I think he's kind of past his prime. Minus 250 feels a little bit high to Q. That's just how I'm kind of feeling about that line. So I do go Black Beast in that one, assuming that he actually makes it to the fight and doesn't hurt his back in the first 15 seconds, as I talked about earlier. So
Raj loves the underdogs, and I've come through a lot with underdogs.
You've been making good picks.
You know what? Pedro Munhoz, shout out to you. Obviously, Weili Zhang, shout out to you. And then we don't even have to talk about a few weeks ago. In this fight, I got the favorite. I got JDS. I think minus 250 is actually a fair line. I think you can make some money there. Parlay that with a couple other bets. Now we're talking. So that minus 250, all JDS needs is one takedown on Black Beast, and he's going to gas. If he can evade that strike, that big power strike for the first 4 minutes, he's in the driver's seat for the rest of the 21 minutes. So put that money on JDS. That's what I say at least.
Don't do that.
There's some more money to be made, though, in the co-main. Ben Rothwell facing Blagoy Ivanov. Where's that money going?
I don't think Ben Rothwell's fought in like 4 years or whatever it's been.
It's been a long time.
When he was on that run, Raj, back in I think 2015, 2016, beating up on Matt Mitrione.
Yeah.
I can't remember who else he beat.
I don't think you have to remember who else
you don't have
he
to remember? Okay, cool. But I was a big fan at that time, and even though I haven't seen him fight, somewhere inside I'm just hoping that he's kind of that old Ben Rothwell that was kind of knocking people out. So I'm going to go Ben Rothwell for the shits and giggles of it.
He's not going to be that old Ben Rothwell. He's losing below the Blagoy Ivanov getting that W. He's coming off a loss against JDS.
You win a couple weeks of betting and you think you just know everything about betting.
I'm just going to keep shooting it out. Okay. There's also more money to be made. Yana Kunitskaya is fighting on that card. She's a minus 160 favorite over Marion Renault. I think she'll get that done in that favorite slot. Also, the last one here I got is Beneil Dariush, who most white belts may have heard. He's a good fighter from California. He's fighting Drew Dober. So good fight, both wrestlers. I think Beneil gets that done. He is a minus 175. But again, when you start parlaying, you get the names down, you get the money made.
Beneil Dariush in that fight as well, just because I know his name, Drew Dober. I mean,
you know Drew though.
Okay, I guess. A little bit.
And that's it, man. We're done.
Definitely.
Weekly show in the books. Hopefully it's not too long. I think we're about 20 minutes or so.
We did our thing this week. So if you guys haven't been watching, I mean, if you want more entertainment in your life, maybe go back, watch those first 2 episodes. If not, they're only going to get better from here, boys.
And follow us on the IG as well if you're watching on YouTube or vice versa. We're out. Great job.